Okay, we are. Colonel, is he on or?
He's on.
Because I can't hear him if he's
No.
talking.
I just saw Colonel put his hand up.
Colonel, if he's talking, I can't hear him. We can't hear him.
I'll hear now.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Hold this one. Keep talking.
Is he talking to us or is he talking to the radio station?
I'm not sure, but I will say welcome to those watchers on Facebook Live. Appreciate you being here this morning. We'll be getting started in a little while. And you know how it is with us on Monday mornings. It's always something, but
always something on Monday mornings.
We always pull it out and come through and have a good conversation with our special guests. And also welcome to the, well, I said the Facebook Live and the Zoom.
Keep talking.
Okay.
Are you talking to us, Colonel?
You say keep talking. Do we need to start the show?
Yeah, go ahead and start.
Okay.
All right. Every day we rise. It's a great day to be alive. And welcome to the Seven Cities Farms of Hampton Roads presents Portsmouth Coffee Talks morning show. And we want to welcome the listeners. I said a little earlier on our first half of the show on WGPL 1350 AM. And for the whole hour, we want to welcome the listeners or the watchers on Facebook Live on Leah Stitt's Facebook page. Welcome. My name is James Slim Overton, and I'm here with hosts Leah Drake Stitt and Thomas the Colonel Chapman. Good morning, co-host. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Another Monday morning. And Colonel, I see you don't have the star on this morning, but you know, we did squeak one out there.
Can only hear me.
You can only hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're gonna let me know if we're gonna continue on, and when they come on, that'll be fine. But anyway, we're here. We have a special guest with us this morning, and we appreciate him getting up this morning early. He's not an early riser, but none of us are, but except for the Colonel, that military man. But none of us are. But we appreciate him coming. His name is Isaiah Marriner, and he is a graduate of Western Branch. We have so he's a fellow Western Branch Brewing with the Colonel here, who also graduated from Western Branch, and a grad of North Carolina A&T.
Aggie pride there. Aggie pride.
Bachelor's of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering with a minor in history, and that's one of my favorite subjects. I'm glad. But anyway, he's here with us this morning, and we're going to have a conversation with him. But before we get started, the Colonel is going to give a disclaimer. And Colonel, if you will, start off the conversation with our special guest this morning.
Yes, give the disclaimer is that the views stated on this program are those of the guest and the host and no one else. So it keeps us out of Facebook jail. And then so saying that, good morning, Isaiah.
Good morning, Colonel. How you doing?
Oh, every day is a good day. I'm glad to see you out here representing the Marriner family.
Thank you.
Long legacy.
Yeah.
Actually,
yes,
I used to carry papers to your grandparents.
Really?
Yeah, matter of fact, you know, my dad lived, you know, when you moved out to Cedar Grove, two doors down on the right, that was my dad's house. That's where I grew up. So
small world.
Yeah, small world. So I go back with your dad a long time.
Man,
so yeah, cool. Yeah, long time. So saying that, tell us about yourself first. How you get to this place.
Man, I remember thinking back when I was little, my dad asked me what I wanted to do. And honestly, the only answer I could ever give him was, I just want to help people. So I didn't really know how to do that, but that was what I wanted to do. So that really just led, and that led me down this path all the way. I went to school to be an engineer because I wanted to at first build things to help people. And while I was there, I realized that the world wasn't going to change if people learn the same thing. So then I saw education as my path forward. I saw that was what I wanted to get into. I wanted to teach. And I wanted to teach a class that the kids pretty much had to take me. So at first I was thinking about teaching English or history because I kind of hated physics, but
Not you.
yeah, I'm teaching physics now.
I know it.
How life goes is pretty wild, but
Mhm.
that was just part of the whole growth. I wanted to
Uh-huh.
help people, so that I got into education. And then as I got through college, my view on the things that I hated shifted. Yeah, we could talk about that a little bit more, but the views on a lot of things I had to shift in order for me to make it through, and making it through, that's what I got into. So yeah, long story short, once I got out of college, I did like a year off, some easy job, making good money, and then I moved home, and the opportunity was there. I needed a job. I started looking at teaching jobs, and they had a physics position open. So here I am. It's been 7 years later, and we were rocking out, teaching physics, teaching engineering, drawing, and design. I coach robotics. I coach wrestling at the school. They keep me busy.
That's good. That's good.
You know, and it's great. And your history is interesting because it matches up what we've been talking about with a lot of the teachers in the city of Portsmouth and around. As you look at Black males, and there's not a lot of you out there. And I'm harking back to my old high school days. One of my favorite teachers was Mr. Watford at Western Branch, who also taught that STEM and what you're doing now. And so we don't see that, and we're always underrepresented as minorities in STEM education. And without that, then we get left behind. And so can you address our lack of STEM pushing our folks out to, or minorities out to STEM, future STEM education, and where does it get you?
So talking about whether or not we're getting a push, I guess in a lot of places the access is not there, but my experience has been a little bit different. I've been in Portsmouth, and it really looks and feels as though they're pushing this out to as many of the children as possible. So I can't speak for everybody else, but at least in Portsmouth, they're actually trying to do that. They start early with star-based and arrow-based elementary school kids, and all of them go over to do stuff. They have Chrome clubs at pretty much every elementary school, as long as they still got somebody willing to sponsor the club. Before COVID, I know they had one at every elementary school. It didn't feel like that when I was in elementary school coming up, but seeing it now, they're pushing it. So the money for STEM education is there before it is for a lot of other things. And I think that part's across the board. Now, as far as us, I'm looking at the panel. So we talking about Black people. We often get the short end of the stick, which is why I think in Portsmouth we have had a very hard time with this. A lot of back and forth with city council, with the state government as a whole, just trying to make sure we continue to give funds. But that's the state of education in this country.
It is.
So, that's a hard push, because I mean, as far as school goes, as far as public school goes, even STEM is the one thing that's getting money, but the system as a whole isn't getting enough money. That does get money. I'm right next to an art teacher, and I get resources that he gets passed up on all the time. And we both want the same types of things: 3D printers, laser cutters, that sort of thing. And I get it before he gets it. So this is my city supporting STEM, or they're supporting the arts. And I don't mean to like throw them under the bus in that regard, but STEM gets the money. But we don't get it. The entire system is short-staffed, man. It's hard.
It is. It is extremely hard.
Yeah. I could talk all day about that. I don't know if I want to like. Yeah, your question, I think I didn't really answer because the answer doesn't quite fit. STEM gets money.
But I think you did answer it in a way, in as much as you said STEM, at least they're getting the funding for STEM, and at
Yeah.
least they're getting the younger kids in elementary school involved in STEM. Each school has an opportunity to go over for Starbase to learn those things that they need to know in order to see where their interest lies as far as STEM
Now,
is concerned. So
if I may, outside of Portsmouth, that star-based thing is not the norm. It
I
is not
know.
accessible for everybody. So I'm like grateful to be in a city that gets such a bad stigma, but and at the same time, it's really working to do something for their kids.
Exactly.
And that's not commonplace everywhere else.
Hmm.
People move to Chesapeake because they feel as though the education system is great, but you don't have that opportunity for all your kids at the elementary school level. Like they don't have as many chances. Yeah, you have to get into a specialized school, and they have those, but that's only for a small set of the population.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, you know, the whole discussion it goes back to policy, especially if you look at the federal and the state, and especially because our money comes down from the state. And since we gone to they passed during the George Bush era that Leave All Children Behind Act, where we you know gone you know just teach towards the passing this the test in the end. And so STEM is the child has to opt in for those classes, the higher math. And so the state says you only need to go up to such and such math, and then you're good.
Algebra
But
2.
yes, but you have to opt in. So it also goes back to a discussion is your parenting.
Yes.
And involvement of the parenting. If the parents, and this you can correct me if I'm wrong here, if I'm steering down the right, it goes back to a parent saying, Johnny or Sally, you need, even though you've gotten these other classes and you just floating through high school, if you want to have success in the future, you have to take those hard classes, because if they're hard now and you put the pain in now, when you go to college, which some parents aren't even talking about, even not even college, to go to a apprenticeship program or whatever, you've got to have the higher level math. And so, and even past that, with that village that you live in, which I'm talking about the neighborhood, if the village is also, you have the other children in the neighborhood or taking those higher level maths and sciences and biologies and stuff, then it is normal for you to take those harder classes versus I've seen talk to kids to say, well, nobody else is doing it. I don't want to be stigmatized as an egghead or one of them. Could you speak to that? Am I wrong on that? Did I break?
No, you're not. You're not wrong on that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still generalizing the situation, but you're not wrong at all. I agree with you. The parental involvement is, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues that we have, because with the school system being set up the way that it is, if your parents are not involved, a lot of kids are just going to end up getting passed by because they're meeting the bare minimum standards. And if they're not pushing for anything, then we can't force them to do anything, which is why the parents really have to be the ones enforcing this at home. Because if you raise your kids up like this, when they go to school, they're going to get that push. They're going to have that push, and they're going to seek these opportunities. And a lot of times it's not that the opportunity isn't there, it's that the opportunity isn't sought. And then when it's not sought, the opportunity is lost, and then programs fall apart. So then we got kids talking about, well, how come we can't do this, that, and the third? And it's like, well, no, we have this, that, and the third. How come you aren't just doing that? And they're like, well, nobody told me. Well, you didn't ask. And it's just like, and then it's just this cycle, and it just never gets any better. But for the kids that are in it, their parents pushed them. Their parents went up, they asked, and they were involved. So that is something that we have to make sure that really focus on. And I find that that's hard for a lot of different reasons. Some of these parents are working 2, 3 different jobs, or they're working night shifts. So that when they get home, their kids are gone. So that really, there's no time to actually parent. They're just keeping them alive. There's food in the house, bills are paid, like basic needs are met, but higher order needs aren't getting met. Again, they're not really parenting, they're just supporting a life, which is important. Like they're doing what they can, but then there's a lot missed. So thinking about that, man, the parent piece is paramount. We got to have that in there, because schools have opportunities, but you got to ask. Or on the other side, for the kids that don't have that, you see them, and I think you brought this up, wandering through life. I find a lot of kids at school just wandering through school. And then I ask them, yo, what are you going to do with your life? Are you going to treat your life the same way you treat school right now? Are you going to wander through life like you wander through these halls? And for the few of them that actually like hear me when I ask that, it hits them for a second, because they realize that they aren't really doing anything but wandering around. And they say school's whatever, boring, this, that, and the third. But then again, I'm looking at kids that are in hard classes in the same building as you. And they're not saying that to me. So what's the ultimate difference, I think, is the drive coming from the student. But then the question has to be, where do they get that drive? So parents, man, parents. I thank the parents I see that are involved, because I see it in their kids, and I see the difference in their kids. I thank my parents a lot more now, because I see the difference it made. My parents pushed it, and even though I was having issues in school, I mean, we got to talk about some real stuff here. So
That's right.
even though I was depressed when I was in school and I was going through it, my parents pushed me to do better, to strive for more. And I didn't settle for less in terms of what I put out in school. I mean, I strive for a higher level than a lot of other kids. I didn't give it my all, and at moments I regret that, but I pushed a lot harder. I mean, my goal was a 3.5, and in reality, I could have got a 4.0 if I really tried, right? But what I still put out, I'm grateful for how they pushed me, and where I was able to go with it, because it took me far. And I'm still able to lean on my high school experience now. College took me over the board. That really taught me how to think, but basic skills, I got so much of that in high school. My parents pushed me to be better, to work harder at it. And I see the difference now that I'm teaching kids and I'm helping raise other people's children. Man, for anybody that listens, if you have kids, take your time to really still parent. It doesn't matter how old they get, to still be involved, to talk to them and push them, because they need that. We need that in our community. Just because they're in high school doesn't mean that they're fine. They need that push. They need that love and that attention in a way that younger kids kind of still need it too. Like, we miss that when you get to a certain age. Like, you want to be an adult, but they miss that and they need that too. And it makes a difference. So yeah, I think again, I could go all day on this.
Good. And you know what? And you had two things. There's two things that you when you were talking, you talked about the kids hanging out, taking these classes with other higher education or higher program kids. And then so I'll break it down to use a metaphor, that clan that they're with, that group of kids. And then subset. And then I'll also say that within that subset is the village that those folks live in. And each one pushing that subset to higher goals. Yeah. And I think we missed that. And to boil that down is saying you are who you hang out with will spill over on what you're going to be.
Yes.
So if you're hanging out with the group that doesn't want to do anything and is pulling you down, and I can tell you about what I say is a crab theory. And because when the water gets hot, they are going to pull you down. Boys is going to turn on you no matter what. And you're going to end up turning orange and being eaten with the rest of the crabs, and nobody gets out of the pot. That's a crab theory.
Yeah.
Getting back,
but it stems to Isaiah was blessed in as much as he had two parents who were there for him and who fought for him and watched his growth. And as Isaiah mentioned earlier, many of the parents are now working multiple jobs.
Yes.
You really don't have the time to parent, just trying to live. And that's when it comes a time when it's incumbent upon the village to step in and to help those children who don't have the parental involvement. And I see the compassion that Isaiah has for the children, and more teachers need to have that passion as well. Now it's hard for the teachers as well because of the type of monies that they're making, the type of times that's required of them by administration. They don't have the time to do the push that our teachers did for us, because see, our teachers didn't have all that push from the administration, from the state, and all those other folks. They were able to teach. They were able to nurture. Teachers don't have the time to nurture anymore. So we have to get to a point of realizing that the village has to come in. The village has to come in to help and to encourage those students who don't have what you had, Isaiah. And so many of them don't have that. And so many of them have such great potential, but there's no one there to help them, to guide them, to lead them, to get to that point where you're talking about at this time.
Well, you know, the other piece is the laws sometimes is a roadblock too. So I as a teacher sees a promising student, and I put some pressure on him and tell this child, you can do better. So that child goes back and tells mama, Teacher X, Mr. Chapman told me I could do better, and I need to do this, or I need to straighten up my act. And then that parent, not understanding my role and what I'm trying to do, runs down there to the principal and is ready to cut my throat, as a metaphor.
It's all about tact in that situation, because and you got to know who you're talking to, what kind of kid it is, in order for you to approach them a certain way, because, well, everybody has a way that has a language they speak. So you need to be able to speak that certain language. And hopefully when you're giving a push to a kid like that, your principal will end up having your back. But I have friends that are or were educators, and that was not the case.
They throw you under the bus.
I had a friend, she was an educator in Norfolk at elementary school, and man, she puts her heart out for her kids and was really trying to do everything she could for her kids. She loved her babies, and her administration made it hard to do some very wonderful things, like use a hydroponic system in the classroom. She's trying to teach her elementary school students about hydroponic gardening systems. And that ties into a bunch of various things they do in elementary school, basic life science things of that nature. And they wouldn't let her use the system in there. And it was just like, you're blocking wonderful teachers from being able to really help expand horizons. It happens. Unfortunately, it does happen. So you do need that village, that just to really be able to come in and actually say, we can do better, to hold parents accountable, to fill in when parents are missing. And sadly, I think more often than a village, our kids are living in like a war zone. So
they are.
We have to find a way to bring that back. Now they're living in a war zone, or they're living in very isolated communities. Like I don't think it's all war zones. I think more so It's this modern sense of isolation. Technology being able to connect us so much together in this capacity has disconnected us in the physical capacity. And you see the negative side effects of that. Kids are very, very awkward in person.
Yeah, Isaiah,
I think more so than we used to be.
Isaiah, I want to bring up this fact. I believe you're one of the first high school teachers we've had on here. We appreciate it. And I knew I wanted to have you on, or we wanted to have you on, because we know you speak truth to power. You know, you don't hold back, and even, telling some things about your personal life. But anyway, and we've had college professors on here, but I think it's important to have you on here or other teachers going forward, because this is the preparation. This is where the kids are prepared for that college level. And we've heard from some college professors said students are coming there not prepared. So it's important, and we don't want people to miss out on the fact that Portsmouth does offer a good education. You always heard about Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, and you said about the STEM program, and we had a school board member talking about the dual language immersion, which we're going to start, the foreign languages at a young age. But getting to physics, when I would see physics, I would run the other way. So, and I know at one point you had a general and you had college prep. I don't know if that's still the way it is now. So I'm wondering what students would take physics, or is it a choice, or if they are preparing for college, I'm sure that they will probably have to take physics. But how is it set up now in the school system as far as getting to physics? And are students really gravitating towards it, or are they sort of pushed into it?
There's a little of both. I think students have gravitated towards me more so than outward, just the general love of the class. It's hard. It was hard for me too. So I remember I've tried not to forget what it felt like, because I hated physics. Oh man, it was the hardest class I took in high school, and I was taking other AP classes. But physics definitely kicked my butt. So I remember that. The types of kids I get, though, I get a wide variety. Most of the kids are planning to go to college, but there are so many different pathways that a lot of college-bound kids don't have to take my class. I have a kid that's on my robotics team. He was actually in the picture you all used with the promo. He's taking AP physics. He's a sophomore in high school. He's taking AP physics virtually. So he's not going to take my physics class. I don't teach AP physics, but he's taking it already. So he's going to have that under his belt. He's getting the experience. They have a lot going on right now. They have this early college program. They have first college program. So I get a lot of first college students. But so the early college, these kids come in as freshmen and they start taking classes at TCC their freshman year of high school. So they graduate with an associate's degree. And then you have other kids who are advanced. They might start taking AP classes early, and then they do dual enrollment and then go to first college. So they're seniors, and in January, they leave the semester early and start at TCC, start a full semester at TCC. Those kids might be able to get an associate's degree depending on extra things they were doing with their time. But the early college program, those kids are set to graduate with the associates. So they're coming out already with the high school diploma and the actual college degree. So they have both things available. And then you still have the general education course where you just get your high school diploma, advanced or standard, and the state controls those requirements. For the advanced, I think it's 24. It's either 24 or 26 credits. And then for the standard, it's 22 credits. Various mix of English, math, and sciences, and like 2 histories.
And let me ask you this, and I know in your class you probably teach the practical application of physics, but how, and with your minor in history, how much do you go into, also trying to slip into history? Because if you go back in history, it was some Black people that were pretty that dealt in physics a long time ago when it wasn't fashionable
Mhm.
for us to even, be knowledgeable. They didn't want us to be knowledgeable, but we had some people doing some things in physics way back
Yes.
in the day. So can you allow around those times when you're trying to teach to the test, to slip in a little bit of history about, our Black folks that contributed in physics?
Yeah, but
Gratefully,
before we answer that, Slim, you want to talk about this transition because what probably it'll go over the time
Yes,
there.
6:58.
Sure. Thank you, Colonel. I appreciate that. And we want to thank everybody listening on WGPL 1350 AM. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you. And we'll be transitioning now to Facebook Live only. And your listeners, please join us again next Monday as our special guest will be Delegate Don Scott. Okay. All right. Isaiah, I guess you got that question or statement I made.
I got you. This is fancy. I love it right here. So getting to the history, one thing that I do every day, and this is probably the main way I get it in the history in, I call it my mom's. I start class with a moment of motivation, and I use that as a way of giving a motivational quote. And a lot of times I bring the history in with the person giving the quote. So it might not always be a Black scientist or engineer, but I am bringing in some history, and I try to throw in the mix to be inclusive, because I do have kids from various backgrounds,
Mhm.
and they talk a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion nowadays, and what that looks like. And it's not just people from different states. It's it's people from different cultural backgrounds and things. So I try to throw a mix in, but I definitely go hard for our people. And when I'm using pictures, I'm talking about certain people. I just talked about one of my role models, Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Oh, okay.
an astrophysicist.
Mhm.
I love him. He was a wrestler, so like that
Uh-huh.
speaks to my nature very
Uh-huh.
strongly here. And a lot of people don't know that. I'm like, you can be an extremely smart and be an athlete. We can do both.
That's important. Yes.
So yeah, I throw some things in like that, and then in various moments when it's relevant, I have my sidebar conversations. I bring up some stuff and try to talk about people. Man, what is this lady's name? She's the president of a college right now, Polytech Rensselaer. I can see her name. It was a Black lady. She's responsible for research and call waiting, and she did a lot of computer science research.
Yes.
I can see her. Sorry, it's not coming to me right now. It's going to eat me up. Shirley Ann Jackson, Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson. She's another person that I use in my mom's, where I have a quote from her. So I take moments like that to bring in some history when I can, and also to bring some light into the classroom, because, well, think about high school, I was going through it mentally for the entirety of that. So I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. There are a lot of stressors, and also remembering that adults don't feel your pain. They're minimizing what you're experiencing. So I try to not try implies failure. I bring in these quotes, and I bring in these moments so that they can see themselves and see people like themselves and hear the words they need to hear in moments.
And
Uh,
Isaiah, like you said, you bring in these quotes, you bring in these words, but you are a man who throw the words out there. Do you utilize your spoken word during your class time? Do you utilize that talent as well? I've had the pleasure of hearing you, and I know that you do a great job. Do you use that in the classroom?
Not as often.
Oh, you should. You should.
I give a few moments. There's a picture up of me at Churchland where I was performing at a talent show. So I take some moments. Quick little story about that. My first year teaching, I got in trouble at I got in trouble because I did a poem at the it was a Black History Month kind of like an open mic situation.
Uh-huh.
And we had some kids performed. One of our principals read a poem. Really good man, Dr. Mark Lenneberg. He was a superintendent. He is a superintendent out near Richmond right now, I believe. He was a AP at my school that year. And I did a poem called Proud and Loud, where I talk about some microaggressions that white people have said to us over the
Mhm.
years.
Oh,
And
wow. Wow,
things
that didn't go over well, I'm sure.
Oh no, it did not.
Mhm.
Actually, it went over amazing in the reception because I'm speaking to a primarily Black student audience, and there are also Black teachers and the librarians. Well, one of the librarians was Black. She was loving it, and the principal that I named, he also was loving it. So I
Uh-huh.
didn't say anything really out of pocket, and I really didn't say anything out of pocket, but I did not hold back either.
Mm.
I talked about some of the reality of where we are right now, and that we don't have to feel bad for any of these things. And I talked about, yeah, so I went in with that one, and a lot of people, some of the white people at work, they didn't like that, so they complained. One lady, she still works there. I respect her though, because she came and she talked to me about it. She didn't like what I said, but she came and she spoke to me about it instead of just changing up how she acted with me.
Right.
She did still change how she acted with me, but I respected her because she approached me and talked to me about something that she didn't like, and everybody else just kind of cowered and went off.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mhm.
said, they talked about me behind my back. She came to me in my face. So I
Mhm.
give her credit for that. But I did use it in that moment. And then ever since then, I kind of tried to knowing that my principal remembered that moment and remembered that that's who I am. Um, I watched a little bit of what I said at school. I still say what I mean and
Mm-hmm.
mean what I say, but I have watched what I said because I started to think about what battles are worth it in the space.
Exactly.
Um,
Choose your battles. Choose them
yeah,
wisely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I still perform periodically when we have these moments. I do at least one poem a year in class. This one called Fear. Y'all were there at the John Carlos event, John
Mm-hmm.
Carlos Walk for Humanity. Looking forward to the next one next year. The fear piece I did there, I do that one a lot in class. And sometimes it comes up. I haven't written anything for physics that just kind of felt corny to me.
Mhm.
But maybe I need to get out of my way and try.
Yes, you need to try because you can say something that will stimulate someone who is just kind of on the edge, not sure in which direction they want to go. And that one word can lead them in the direction in which they need to go. You know, the uncertainty is there. So
Yeah,
you need to give it a try.
yeah.
thank you.
And they always talk about going to the students where they are. And a
Yeah.
lot of students that might be where they are, you
Mhm.
know, as far as the spoken word that you present to them. So, you know, don't hold back on that either. But don't
Yes.
let it go against the grain if that's if it's going
Uh,
against the grain. But I don't think so. I think it's a part of education.
I'm gonna go against grain a little bit, but I hear you, and I appreciate you all inspiring me right now,
Mhm.
speaking me up right now. Thank you. I am going to get more and do some more with my words. Some of
Yeah,
my
because
kids
I was
know.
very impressed at the John Carlos event. I just wish that more people had been there so that they could hear you, you know. And but very much I can see it being a motivating factor for the youth because they're into the spoken word, either through song or through poetry or what have you. But and as long as we can get that positive information into them and helping them to understand who they are and whose they are and on whose shoulders they stand on, you know,
Yes, yes, yes.
and you can do it. I know
Thank
you can.
Well, you know what,
you.
Isaiah, since we're on this vein, so you've been teaching for how long now?
This is year 7.
Okay, so at year 7, so where do you see yourself 5 and 10 years from now? And then one, you're at the grassroots now. do I see, and I think I see you moving out of the classroom into the administrative piece and you being a future principal or superintendent down the road. So I'm foretelling that. And also add in, you can add about the next thing for your next graduate degree.
My next graduate degree.
Yes.
You know, this
Answer all
5-year
those my
plan.
questions.
Thank you. Wow. There's no such thing as coincidence. I would like to say that.
Yes.
This 5-year plan piece has been coming up a lot, and I'm still I need to really redevelop it because I'm at the end of a 5-7 year plan right now.
Mhm.
When I started teaching, my goal was to teach for 5 to 7 years because my ultimate desire was not to be a teacher, it was to revolutionize education. I know that it is not the way it could be, the way
Exactly.
it should be, and
Mhm.
at this point, I'm a part of that system, and I'm working. I do what I can to get my kids to grow, to become problem solvers, to start to believe in themselves, because that matters so much more than like some of these other things. Like they don't believe in themselves, they're not going to go and do anything. They're not going to look for examples and paths forward because they don't feel like they can. And if you do believe in yourself, you're going to end up finding a solution. It doesn't matter what your surroundings are, which is why I'm like, yo, you don't blame school. What are you doing about this?
Exactly.
This is your life. The school is a tool. What are you doing with this? But I digress. I'm redeveloping my 5-year plan. I've been kind of stuck for a while, and I've been a little lost on that, and I don't really know exactly what I want to do. I was thinking about being an administrator, and then during COVID, I learned that is not what I want to
What you want to do. Well,
Um,
Isaiah, you know, 7 is completion, 8 is new beginnings. So this is your 8th year coming up. So new beginnings for you.
Yes, yes. And I don't know what that looks like yet. I'm hoping that there's a couple things that are starting to shape up, a doorway that's opening that I really hope I can walk into. And until it's here, I'm not going to speak about that in public. But there is something that I'm hoping is coming. I really want to get back into helping people more. I do want to be out in the community more. So in my 5-year plan, one thing I plan to do is to have more speaking engagements, more things like this, more things where I can get out in front of the people and help them. I want to create more events that can actually touch the community, that can solve or at least ameliorate some of the problems that keep feeding this cycle. Because as an educator, this is year 7, I see so many things that make my job pretty much impossible.
Right.
It's not impossible. I do it. I'm making my way through, but I see the things that make my job harder, and they are not things that I can solve while I am a teacher. I can talk to my kids, I can help motivate them, but I can't personally change the environment in their home. While I'm teaching them, I can't change their community. And
Exactly.
my 5 to 7 year plan has to include things that can do that, because as long as the homes and communities they go back to are torn apart, I'm not really going to be able to make the kind of impact I want to make, because there are
That's
too
the
many
truth.
problems feeding into the system that already has problems.
That's
Like
right.
we talk about the shortage of funds. We don't have enough funds going into the schools because there's a lot of money that has to go into community development. We don't have enough money going into community development because of all the money that goes into the prison system. We don't have enough money we don't have enough money for like actually rehabilitating our criminals because of the clouding of the system for all these other, there's so many different problems that fall into place where everything is just underfunded and poorly staffed, where and then you have underfunded, poorly staffed systems feeding into understaffed, poorly funded systems. My 7-year plan is going to involve community development and more activism. I want to get back out into the world, and I have
So
to
much
find a
needed.
way to do that. And honestly, I have to get out of the classroom, because as long as I'm teaching and coaching, I don't have the time to do this. Like, I have 2 months in the summertime, there's a grind, but the last few summers I have been burnt out.
But
Isaiah,
it's
teaching and sharing information and helping people to use their critical thinking skills can go beyond the classroom. And you've already kind of done that, at Grove with some of the programs, some of the videos. I remember I used to watch you and your dad and others that would be involved in conversations then. And one time I thought it was very interesting. You all had a conversation while you were playing cards. And some people might have issues with that. What are they doing in church playing cards? But that's neither here or there. The main thing was the conversation you were having and the people that you were reaching that were in those same situations, playing cards and having meaningful conversations. And I thought that was very innovative, the way you all did that and other ways you did that with the church.
I'm glad you brought that up. I remember planning for that, the Tough Table Talk series.
Yes.
And we were trying to find a way to make what we were doing a little bit different than what other people were doing. And then that conversation piece right there, that came up. You have these conversations, you talk trash around cards and people get into it. When you're at home doing what you do, that comes up. This is life right here. So I'm glad you brought that up, because we have been wanting to do that again. My father and I have talked about that a few times. We want to reinstitute Tough Table Talks, because
I hope you do. I thought it was very informative. It was entertaining, and and I talked about the critical thinking piece. It makes you get into your mind. Just listen to other people's conversations. Say, well, we go through that same thing. Just like Tommy and I, we might be sitting around watching the Cowboys, but in between plays, we might bring up a national issue, a political issue, and have a conversation about that. And that's the way people operate. So you're just bringing that home, and that's another piece of going to people where they are. And you can be more effective going to where they are and get their attention and maybe make a difference.
Gotta do it. That's why I appreciate these moments too.
But getting back to the statement that you made earlier about getting into the community, because we have to start healing the whole community, as opposed to, I know so often at the Pines, when we had Pines Residential Treatment Center, and we said, we're treating these children, we're giving them tools that they can use to make their lives better. And then we send them back into the environment in which they've come out of, in which they have to use the survival tools in order to make it in the community. So they release those things that we've given them to help them to grow and to live a different life, because I have to resort back to what's taking place in the community. And that's what's taking place in the school, as you mentioned. And we do need to look at the multifaceted approach as to how we work with these kids, because kids bring so much to school with them. Kids have seen at such an early age. When you talk to first graders who tell you about somebody who was killed in this community, and the teacher's wondering why this kid won't sit down and be still in the classroom, he's dealt with so much in that 24-hour period. It's hard for him to sit down. I know it's hard for the teachers who have 30 kids in a classroom, and you're trying to get them all under control. And it's hard to deal with the psychological things that many of these children are going through. These children have experienced more in elementary school than I've experienced in my lifetime.
There are a lot of these really tragic situations. And man, I'm about to cry. I'm crying right now, honestly. I'm sitting here thinking about some of the kids that I know that I have. One of the kids on my wrestling team, he was talking about how recently, he's a really good kid. He's talking about how recently he was out with the he told me the name. It's like the young adult, it's like the young police force. And he started talking about how he saw a dead body recently. The kid's 14 years old. And I'm just like, I've never in my life. I got another kid. Just the amount of trauma that she's carrying, and she's smiling all the time. And I know a lot of people, if anybody smiles all the time, you hiding something. I don't trust
something. Mhm.
But with her, she started telling me her story, and man, it's just wow. It's just the weight on her shoulders. Like this
Mhm.
one, she's 16, 17 years old. She talked about the number of times that she had already been raped. And I was like,
Mhm.
and you living with this.
Mhm.
You're trying to just keep on keeping on. And these are just a couple students that I've talked to, and I know that this is not everybody. Everybody has a story. The number
Mhm.
one thing I think we need in school, like, and money would help solve this problem, but the number one thing I feel like we need are mental health services that are not
Exactly.
bogged down by
Exactly.
paperwork. Our
Mhm.
kids just need access to counselors, and they need to be able to do that without a lot of scrutiny.
Mhm.
They need to just be able to go and talk to somebody in the same way that they could go talk to their guidance counselors. But again, with the system being so bogged down, guidance counselors don't get to do as much guidance and counseling anymore. They have to do a
They
whole
have
lot more paperwork.
they have too many children they have to deal with. You know, one counselor has to deal with the whole school.
You have 4, 5 guidance counselors for a school
That's
population of
right.
1,500 people.
1,500 is too much. It's too much.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need more mental health services. The
We
kids need
do.
somebody, but then at the same time, we need that for the community because their parents need mental health
Yeah.
services.
It's that vicious cycle. It's that vicious
Yes,
cycle that we're in.
yes.
You know, and you know, and then plus we're expecting children who would never parented, who become parents, and we expect them to know how to parent. Parenting is the only thing that does not require you to have lessons and to get it and to get a license for. And it's the one thing that you need a license for.
You
You
should.
know, so you got kids who've never been parented, trying to parent kids who is going to end up parenting other kids who have and they've never been parented. So it's just and so much the
So
teachers have to deal with on a daily basis, not only in trying to teach a class, but you got to deal with all the other things that are brought forth into the classroom.
I think if you're going to really be effective, you have to be far more than just a teacher.
Exactly.
That's why I think a lot of us use the term. We don't say we're teachers. We give ourselves a little more credit than that. We say we're educators because it's trying to do a little bit more than just teach you a subject matter.
Hmm.
Trying to bring you around full circle, and we don't always have the space to do that because for teachers that care but have to teach to a test, they
That's
don't
right.
have the space to do that because their jobs are stringent on that test.
On the
History
test.
teachers, English teachers, a lot of math teachers still, and a lot of my colleagues in science, they have to teach to a test. When I go to department meetings and I'm listening to things that they have to do, and 75% of it has nothing to do with me because they're talking about making sure they get certain standards in, having their team meetings for the subject they teach. I'm the only physics educator at Churchland, right? So there's
Hmm.
only one of us at a school, period.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm isolated in that regard. I don't have an SOL, so I have the freedom to do other activities. I have the freedom to sit and talk with my kids and have these moments where I can be a counselor of sorts. I'm not licensed at that, so I can't
Hmm.
like really say like I'm their counselor, but I give them counsel. That I let them talk to me, and I'm an ear. And I'm a mandatory reporter, so when I hear things I have to report, I do that.
Hmm.
There was a girl I mentioned earlier, and we made it down to guidance together, so we could go and talk because she told me something I couldn't just do nothing
Exactly.
about.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, by law, you had to report.
and so we went and did that, and since then, I mean, she knows that there's somebody else that she can talk to, like that guidance counselor. Yeah, man, it's just think about all the things that go on because
Yeah.
that the kids don't feel like they can talk to their guidance counselors, and so they don't go talk to their guidance counselors, and the counselors want to talk to them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
But they got 500 kids to talk to and a mountain of paperwork. So if they don't know you
Amount
have
of
a problem,
paperwork.
yeah,
Not
you
only
know,
that, not only the amount, but the issues that they have to deal with that might throw some counselors off. Say, wow,
But they're trained for that, right? They're technically they are trained for that. The paperwork part, that's easy. Anybody could do that, but they are trained for that emotional development. And a lot of counselors are sad and tired because they don't get to do that as much. They
Mhm.
care about what they're doing and they know that what they do in their office hours is essentially helping kids. The kids might not see it, but the counselors know that what they're doing is helping their students. But the kids need somebody that they can actually sit and talk to. And with there being several thousand of them, sometimes depending on the size of your school, we don't have the resources for that.
Exactly.
So good teachers do that work, and we're tired as a result.
Mhm.
Because I'm trying to get you this content, but I'm also trying to help heal your heart. And it's hard.
Isaiah, I'm truly hoping that we have an opportunity to opt out of SOLs.
It's coming
Uh,
slow.
I mean, if there are some communities who've opted out,
Mhm.
so I mean, because as you said, you don't have the time to really work with the youth the way you would like to work with them
Yeah.
because you're so busy focusing on that tests and making sure your children are prepared for the test. No
Mhm.
critical thinking going on. You just got to teach them, how to fill in these blanks. What's the proper way of filling in the blanks? The children are SOLs, they are not learning. They are not learning at all. And if we can take those gloves off of the teachers, then I think that that can make a difference in the classrooms as well.
Yes.
Teachers would have more time to really engage with the youth. They can't engage now because I got to be prepared with this SOLs are coming up and you got to be prepared to pass those SOLs. I don't have time to deal with anything else that's going on in your life or dealing with you. Be prepared to pass the SOLs. So until
Yeah.
we can get rid of those SOLs, I just don't see us in such a good position with working with the youth in the school system.
Yeah, it really puts us in a hard place because the SOLs put you on a time crunch, and then
Yes.
it leaves you with like about a month to a month and a half of school that feels pointless because the entire thing that we were working towards is done now. So why am I here?
Yes.
And so now you have to fight that mentality with the kids also, and so then it just, again, the cycle of things. There's always something, and that's life. There's always going to be something, but some things I don't think we have to deal with. And people that know nothing about education have made decisions for far too long. And their comment came up earlier. Our governor.
Your governor.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna speak on it too much because I need to look into everything, but I know that there are views that he led his platform on that made no sense
None
in terms
whatsoever.
of education. You talk about banning something that's not even being taught.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. I don't think he really knows what it is. I don't think he really knows what it is.
But so if we talk about like what the thought of critical race theory, like it was never taught in public school in the first place. And it's just like, honestly, the fear that a teacher like me is going to come in here and tell you the truth of a situation, which I do. And then you're going to, so they're banning the truth in order to try to make the country look better, but we're not going to be able to heal like that. So when you put that cover on it and you hide what really happened, we can't deal, because then people are looking, well, how do we get here? Because if I don't know how we got here, I can't really figure out how to move forward because I don't know where we are. So how do I know where to go if I don't even know where we are?
Exactly.
This is why history is really so important. And that was why I minored in history, and why I wanted to teach history. I wanted to subvert the SOL test. I wanted to be the history teacher that say, this is what you got to know for the test, but this is what actually happened.
Exactly.
Last month and a half after the test, I'm like, all right, let me reteach you now. But it would have meant something. Yeah. Man, I'm sorry. There's so much that goes on. And I really want to find ways to help end the cycle so that we can actually go upward instead of just spiraling out of control.
Exactly.
And things are
Exactly.
spiraling out of control. So
Mhm.
there's an effort, there's a concerted effort to make it better. And SOL tests are starting to dwindle, but it's bigger than that.
Mhm.
If we had a strong community, if there actually was a village and we still had the SOL test, we might be okay because the village would help us adapt to that surroundings. But
Exactly.
because we don't have that strong support outside, and then we have this extra pressure inside, there's a lot of depression and there's a lot of mental health issues, anxiety that just goes on, and that furthers the negative cycles that we see around us.
Mhm.
So we got to find a way to cut it. We got to find a way to break these cycles and find a way to move forward, move upward. And I think this is the main reason why I try to greet all my kids and with love, because that's how you start to break it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, Isaiah, as we wind down on the hour, and we're going to have you back. I'll go
Thank
over a
you.
little bit today, but I just wanted to get this in. You went to North Carolina A&T
Yes, sir.
agricultural school historically, and I remember at Union, everybody knows that sort of religious school, and chapel credits. You had to go to chapel as a part of your graduation requirements. So I noticed when I was promoting you, you did some planning, in your yard and things like that. So did some of that while you were in your mechanical engineering studies and history studies, did some of that agricultural
Oh
uh,
yeah.
history wear off on you there, or is it a requirement? Whatever you majored in, you still have to.
Was it a requirement? No. But one thing I do love about A&T is that a graduation requirement is community service. There are people that did not graduate on time because they did not get their community service hours
Exactly.
done. And they thought it was a game. They thought they were going to be able to get out, and they did not. So they had to come back a semester or do something else until they got their credits. And for me, I got mine out the way early. My freshman year when I was at A&T, which I love A&T so much. I mean, it was a good, hard time, but it really helped me grow into who I am today. Just so much about the things I care about, I was able to develop while I was there. Man, I love it. I've sent some students there, so I feel like I'm a really good teacher because I have kids at A&T right now. But my freshman year for my community service, I went to Cove Creek Garden. It was a urban garden. It was a community garden out in a food desert. So down in Greensboro had a lot of food deserts, areas where there was just no fresh food available for the community. So you talk about impoverished communities that do not have access to fresh grocery stores for an affordable price. I mean, regardless of the price, just don't have access to fresh produce. The only things they have are corner stores and fast food markets, churches, chicken and stuff like that. So this garden was set up so that people in that community could go and get vegetables and other things of that nature, and also have a healthy green space, because it is scientifically, psychologically proven that green spaces are good for us. So I did my community service there. I put in 50 hours from January to April, helping out at this garden, wrote a paper about my work, and that really did set me on this path to where I am now. So now I have a backyard garden. My wife and I just harvested 21 pounds of sweet potatoes from a grow box. We got some winter crops growing. We have a hydroponic system set up downstairs now. Yeah, the green thumb, it came in at the Agricultural and Technical State University. I love A&T for that. It really did help me out a lot. Help me care about people, help me move in a different way. And it did introduce me to a love of plants I didn't know I had.
You talk about some great things, and but I'll harken back to it as you want to change, and people that want to change the system, and the system is the policies. And if we don't go out and change our way of life, meaning voting, then get people like this Confederate governor who sets policy, and you talked about his want to ban CRT training was not taught in elementary or high schools or anywhere else. But if I say CRTs, it stirs up his base, the 20 to 30% of folks out there that are unknowing that to come out and support him. If you want to change that, we all have to get out and vote. And so that's that social system that we need to look at. If you don't vote, then you don't have a right to complain. And if you put people in office that can change the policies, either in office or in the administrative jobs, in the principals and superintendents and all this, and so far and up and down, that's how you change it from within. And then so you're changing it and stimulating creative thought at your level, and you have aspirations to change it from outside your circles that you're touching out there as you get ready to transition to your 8-year and beyond plan. You keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
But you think about, for you to get, if you stay in the school system, you've got to get that other master's or EDD, in the doctoral level. And so that higher, because you got to have what I call the chips going forward. So you have to get out there and put that, but keep doing what you're doing. And because just being out there talking to these kids, that being that role model, is paying dividends. And you may not see it, but they are going back and talking to their folks that they hang out with, and they're saying, Isaiah talked to me about this and that, and I shouldn't be doing this, I should be doing that. And you'll be surprised, of the impact that you have. So don't get down on yourself that you can't touch everybody, but you're touching more people than you know that you're touching. And so keep on doing. That's my in statement for the day.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Isaiah, thank you so very much. This has been a great session and it's gone too fast. I would like the fact that we could get you back on here to talk a little bit about the spoken word, and you can share some of your spoken word with us. I was hoping we can get a little piece of that in, but what we got in was so important and so very much needed. So I want to thank you so very much, and thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for pouring yourself into the youth, helping those youth that you can, and also having a plan to take it to another route. So I appreciate all of that you're doing. Also, I want you to let Dr. Malachi know. I know we have a lot of Norcom folks on here, but tell him if he has some other Churchland folks who want to come up and talk about some great things that they're doing, they are more than welcome to come on to Portsmouth Coffee Talk.
Yes,
Once
ma'am.
again, I want to thank you and for all that you do, and I just look forward to more great things that you're going to bring forth, and we'll just wait patiently until it happens. Okay, so I just want to say thank you so very much. The conversation was great, and just not enough time. It's so much that we have to deal with, so just thankful for all that you're doing. Thank you very much.
I appreciate all your kind words. Really, it means something.
I like to say you gave us exactly what we expected. That's why we appreciate it. When your name came up, I knew what we were going to get from you. Like I said earlier, the truth to power. And of course, Leah said, we want you to come back. And I want to tell all the listeners and people watching, show some love to the teachers.
Exactly.
They are dedicated and often underpaid. And, because I can remember, if I'm challenged, I can remember each one of my teachers from elementary up until high school, well through college, because they had that kind of effect on me. And so you saw this young man and you heard him speak. So all teachers, just make sure you show them love and give them respect and respect them. I see some of the things we don't get the teachers don't get the respect from the parents. Like they, when we were coming up, what the parents said, that was the rule. That was the golden word.
Yes.
Nobody challenged them because they had no reason to lie on the students. But now you get challenged by even the parents because of what that student said. And it should be more of it shouldn't be that way. But anyway, I want to thank you again for coming on, and we really appreciate you. And we'll give you the opportunity right now to make any last statements or comments.
Oh man, thank you so much for letting me be here. I appreciate all of these opportunities. I would love to come back and talk to you all again. Definitely share some of my art. It means a lot to me that people want to hear my words, and I got to take that to heart. I said earlier that I don't believe in coincidence. So several things that came up today that you all said to me, I've heard in recent weeks. So I'm going to be producing more of my poetry. I'm going to get on that a lot more. Expect a book from me, and I'm also going to have a better 5-year plan. Expect to see me out here in the community a little bit more. I want to, one project I'm planning to work on, I want to bring all the churches in Portsmouth together for a citywide community development project. There are about 100 churches in Portsmouth, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. And
100, you better take it up higher. Every
It's
corner.
more than that.
it's more
Yes,
than that.
indeed.
See what I'm
Yes.
saying? I want every church in the city to come together and do something. There are too many of us out here for us to be disjointed, yet have the same overall mission. If we all here for the same God, how come we working in separate factions? I want us to come together. So that's one of the first projects I'm working on. And I started talking to a couple other pastors outside of Grove. So help me with that, and let's make something happen. We can make our city a better place. I believe in where we are, and I believe in this community. So I'm not giving up on it. I don't plan to leave. I'm planning to stay here and do what I can to develop Portsmouth and develop my home. Because this is my home and I love it, regardless of everything, all the bad that people like to talk about. I love it. I see the beauty of it. So I'm here. This is why I've been teaching here, because I see the wealth. I see what our kids have to offer. And it's been a wonderful time.
Well, we thank you
I
so
tell
much.
you and Malera together. I mean, we got a combination here. We got a combination. I mean, I can see the two of you going out and conquering the world, really.
Hey, there's some good people here in the city. So yeah.
Yes.
Man, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I'm sincere. Let we do a lot of Norcom programs. So let Dr. Malachi know, or you know your fellow instructors. If someone's doing something and they really want to come on, let us know. And when you're able to pull those churches together, let us know so we can help you to promote what you're doing. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a plan. It's out here in public, so I got to stand on it now.
Got to stand on it. you put it in the universe, so you got to make it happen.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. This has been wonderful. I really do appreciate you all for giving me a platform.
We appreciate you. Believe me, we do.
Well, thanks everyone for watching, and hope you enjoyed our special guest today, Isaiah Marriner. And Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice,
our community,
in our future.
And we salute you, Isaiah.
We salute you.
We salute you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And be sure to join us this Thursday on our Portsmouth Coffee Talks evening edition, when our guest will be comedian Cletus Cassidy.
Oh, wow. That's going to be a day.
Be ready for that. Be ready for that.
Get ready.
We're going to let them loose.
But again, Isaiah, thank you. Thank you so very much.
Oh, no, I love it. I appreciate that. Thursday sounds like it's going to be great. I'm going to tune in.
Well, thank you. And listen, and not only that, tell your friends, this will be on YouTube later. So tell your friends to go to Coffee Talk YouTube page, to like and subscribe to the page, and they can watch this. You can watch this over and over again. You can share it with all your friends. Go to YouTube and share it with everybody in your community and beyond. Okay.
I will. Thank you. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are wonderful. Thank you so much.
God bless you. And you have a beautiful day. Have a most wonderful day.
Time to go teach these kids.
Go ahead and teach those kids. Thank you. And thank you for those in Facebook land who are watching. Thank you once again for joining us today. And we look forward to you coming back on Thursday. Thank you so very much.
Bye-bye.